Mapuana Reed show. Today's guest is my dear friend Kamaile. I'm gonna let her tell you who she is. All right, girl. Let it rip.
I'm so excited to be here. I've been thinking about all the things that we've been talking about all week. So thank you for having me. And I know you are in the beginning, so even more, I feel really blessed to be here. But my name is Kamaile. I'm Heidi. I'm a mom of four. Been married 20 years this year. I'm a native Hawaiian entrepreneur business owner. My husband and I own a construction company, and I'm actually the owner of that, so native Hawaiian as well. And then I have a small clothing fitness line. Really, I think we're going to talk a little bit more about, besides all that stuff, is just the journey through all of that. I think, is like becoming this woman that you're seeing right now. But I'm a multi-passionate, and I feel like all women can relate to this, like multi-passionate um, entrepreneur and really recovering perfectionist. So those are kind of my main things that I feel drive me, but also cause a lot of growth, a lot of opportunities for growth. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. It's the ups and the downs, right, of running a business. I mean, it's like a roller coaster ride. Like you start off in a business, and honestly, I think the best way to find yourself is to go start a business. All the parts of you that you try to like shove down, it'll all come up, all of it, everything, you know?
No, you're right. You're exactly right. It is like a roller coaster. Like the anxiety that you feel when you're waiting in line before you get on the ride and you're like, oh my God, I don't think I can do this, right? Then you get on, you're so scared. It gets going, you're like, it's not too bad. And then you do a couple of those turns and you're like, oh, what did I get myself into? That is exactly what it feels like. Is like being on a roller
One minute
coaster.
you up,
Because
and
it's
the
that.
next minute you down, and the next minute you back
Mm-hmm,
up, and it's like, oh my
mm-hmm.
gosh, just hang on, okay?
Right? And it's a combination of scared but super fun and exciting at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. Tell
Yeah.
me about, okay, so you got Okole by Kamaile. What made you start Okole by Kamaile? Because I
Yes.
absolutely love it. I have a whole bunch of things over here around my house, and my daughter started to steal it, like my little pink shaker. I just had it the other day. Now
I
I
love it.
cannot find it. I went to look for it this morning. She has
Ah,
it.
I know you just posted about it. Yeah, so Okole by Kamaile, I think is just the funnest little business I could have ever made in the midst of COVID. And so it was like a blessing, my husband and I and a couple of my really good friends, we owned a CrossFit gym back on Oahu. And it was just approaching 2020. And I remember having a meeting and I was like, I think I want out. And everybody was like, no, 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 you can't get out. You can't get out. I was like, no, I think I'm done. And that's the thing I think we struggle a little bit as women is like knowing when we're evolving and not shying away from it so much, right? Because it was like, that was kind of my thing. That was my identity. Everybody knew me. Like I did this CrossFit thing, but it was like, I didn't want to do that anymore. And they didn't want me to not I remember them saying in the meeting, you can just take a step away, but don't come out of the business just so that people knew that you were still a part of it. And I was like, I just don't want to do that anymore. So I remember just getting out of it. It was September 2019. And then COVID hit. And I was like, holy crap, right? Is that took a hit on everybody's business, especially gyms. You couldn't work out anywhere.
Did you guys
So
shut down
I
the
started,
gym? You guys completely shut it down in
yeah,
September of
I want to say
2019.
no, I want to say right when COVID hit that following
Okay.
year, they went months with nothing. So they were trying to do
Right.
online, and then eventually they could bring 5 people in at a time. But during that time, I had a Hele Fitness, shout out to Hele Fitness. I had a garage gym. And I was like, okay, I felt really bad, but I'm like, I'm going to keep working out. And I know not everybody has things like a garage gym at home. So I was like, let's just grow a booty. And that's how it started. That's legit how it started. I was like, I want to grow a butt. Let's follow along. Let's grow a butt. And I would just post every day, a workout. And it wasn't oh, join in on the workout, but it was kind of me working out, showing things. And people started asking me okay, how do I do this? Where do I get that? And I would use those booty bands, right? And they're like, where'd you get that booty band? And I was like, I was linking. I
Girl,
was
I was
linking
one of them
things.
asking
Ross,
you, where'd you
Amazon.
get this from? Where'd you get
Yeah.
that from?
Yeah. And so I was like, holy crap. And it just dawned on me halfway through linking. I was trying so hard to get up Amazon storefront set up so that I could link people to it. And I was like, wait a minute. What am I doing? I was like, you know what? And that legit started the whole thing. I started looking for who would manufacture in bulk booty bands. And that was it. And when I started looking, it was really ugly, just kind of plain, you know. And I was like, well, who would buy that from me when you could buy that for $12 on Amazon? And I just got this idea, like, what if I just design my own prints? And I found a manufacturer who was like, yeah, we'll print your prints. And that was that. I just designed, and I think the first set was like shave ice, chakas, and Spambusa beads. It was just things that felt like local to me. And then birthed Okole by Kamaile. And this is the best part. I couldn't come up with a name for the booty bands, and I was kicking it around. And the only thing that like I thought was so funny was Okole bands, and it just like had a good ring to me. And I remember my sister, you know, Olelo Hawaii Imua, and she was like, you might get trolled a little bit for it, you know, Alembu versus Okole. And I just thought it's just so funny. Like to me, it was just the funniest thing I could think of, and so we went ahead with it, and I rolled out that first set of bands. I didn't really tell anybody what I was doing on Instagram, just kind of started working out with them. And people are like, what is that? Where'd you get that from? Like, that's what I love about people. What is that? Where'd you get that from? What are you wearing? What panties are you wearing? You know, and then I would be like, all the time. What panties is that? You know, and I'd be like, oh, this is, you just keep an eye out, you know, and then boom, I rolled it out, did like kind of like a pre-order. And I think I sold like 350 bands in the first weekend. I sold out. Yeah. And I was like, holy crap. And I remember doing a big order after that. And I think it was like the first 2 months, it was like 750 bands that I had sold out of all of them.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was a joke.
Yeah.
Like it started off as a joke. And I don't think people really understand that. Like it started off as a joke. And then it turned into, you know, what sports bra are you wearing? And I was like, oh, you guys want sports bras too? And like it just organically grew this way.
Yeah, and then sweatshirts and leggings and all the good stuff.
All the things.
Yeah. Like because I've known you for so long and I know your journey and your story, it is so inspiring to me to see where you are now versus where you've been. Like you are a complete different person. Complete looks, girl, shaking the booty, everything, like all of it. Okay, down to your underwear is different. Okay,
I know. No, for real. Maybe you should keep that in. No, I'm just kidding.
But I feel like you live a very unapologetic life. Like you are just Kamaile, like love it or leave it, like or get the hell out of here, basically. You know what I mean? Like I just love, girl. I'll just scroll on your Instagram and I'm just so happy to see your face, and I'm like, all right, girl, you know. But I feel like you give women like permission just to be themselves. Like just to be like, I don't care. Like I don't care if you like me. I don't care if you don't like me. This is me. Unfollow, unsubscribe, goodbye.
Yeah. It's 2024, right? And I feel like we're not our mothers anymore. And I know, and that took a lot of work. That took a lot of work to kind of to sift through. Because as you know, I grew up, I'm still very religious, but I grew up very religious, and we are conditioned, I think, as women to act, to look apart. And there's a difference between authentically living in my divine feminine goddess energy and being what somebody else thinks I should be. And so for me, it was this process of it was unraveling a lot of what I was taught and unlearning things that I had known to be true. And I think that's the hard part, is like we were taught something, whether generationally, you know, culturally, mother, daughter, passed down, whatever. We're taught something to believe it as truth until one day something happens in our lives that goes, wait, that's not adding up. You know, that doesn't really add up. So there's the big secret, tada, is I think people get that from me because I do show up very much. I don't care what you think, but I'm a softie. I'm such a softie inside. Like I am a crybaby, and I do care, which was part of the struggle. I wish I could say I just outwardly don't care. I'm going to put myself out there, blah, blah, blah. I do care. The difference is I care more about me and living the life that I want to live and authentically showing up as me so that my daughter can see that. You know, so I will still show up, even if you troll me. I will still show up, even though if I do get my feelings hurt because I've lost friends throughout the way, or that you unfollowed me, or you didn't like me shaking my ass, whatever it is, like it still hurts a little, but not enough to make me stop being who I am. So that process began, it actually began right after that one financial situation, to be honest. I was living in just kind of this, just doing what I was told to do, like I was a stay-at-home mom, I had 4 babies, and so it was a little extra income. I climbed to the top, like, it was good and it was fine and it made money and it gave me an outlet until it didn't, until it questioned things that I was like, wait, that's not actually what I believe anymore. And so when I was given the opportunity to step out and try something new, and we got so much pushback, I personally got so much pushback from that company, and they fired me because they thought I was, gaining the troops and getting everybody, kind of going in this direction, and I wasn't. But that broke me. And I remember at that point, that was when I was like, I had given 10 years to this company that became my identity. And when I start to kind of look back at all of the things that were my identity, right? Like my religion was my identity. My last name being associated to my mother and father was my identity. And I wasn't looking at myself as the woman I wanted to be. And I think that's what the process started. It was really at that moment that I felt like I was at my bottom. I'm sure that was so far from my bottom, but that's what it felt like, right? Like I felt like I had no job. I felt so shameful. I felt like the whole company and everybody knew, or what they thought what the story was. That wasn't. I didn't want to show my face. Like that's how shameful it was. Like, and I think about it now, like I don't talk about that very much because I never think about it. But I'm like, oh my God, I was so ashamed for wanting to do more and be more
Mhm.
and evolve out of something that I was identified as for 10 plus
Mhm.
years. Why do we do that to one
Mhm.
another? Why do we put women in these little boxes, right? Like, oh, she's that. So that's all she can be.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, absolutely not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, absolutely not. So that process caused me to question so many things about myself, why I felt that way, why I felt shameful for something that I didn't do anything wrong. And then it put me on a path to renegotiate with God, really, what I'm doing and who I'm serving at the end of the day, right? Because I think at that point I didn't have a clue. I didn't have a freaking clue. People thought I had it together. I did. I was debt free and I was raising my kids and I was traveling, but I didn't have a clue as to who I was, like who my spirit and my
Mhm.
soul was and who she wanted to
Mhm.
be. And that started this process of like kind of navigating. And I noticed in the navigation, great, wonderful people stepped in and lots of people fell
Mhm.
off.
And as hurtful as that was at that time, don't you think that that was the most biggest blessing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Thank God. Otherwise, I would have just been doing that little,
Yeah.
rat race
Yeah.
in, day out, wouldn't have known anything better.
So I just know this part because I know you, but I remember you had said you were at the sink and you got the phone call or whatever. But if you could go back
Mm.
to that exact moment of you being there, getting that call and stuff, to where you
Ah.
are right now, like if you could just go back and just tell her something, like what do you feel like you would tell yourself, like what, because you've grown so much over all of these years,
Mm.
like what would you go back and tell her when you were at your absolute lowest moment?
There's that song right now that's like a big trend, the end of the beginning. And how does it go? When I'm back in Chicago, I feel it. Do you know the song?
No.
Like right before it. So there's this big trend and people on TikTok or whatever do it. And it's just like, um, don't worry, you'll be fine. And so that's like the line
Yeah.
they pulled out of the song. And it's been kind of circulating in my head because I've been thinking like, what would I tell my younger self? I had this thought today, so it's funny that you asked that question. So part of me wants to just hold her and just be, give her that hug and just be like, don't worry, you'll be fine because you deserve better, because you're better than this, because God, and the way I always talked about it was I felt like God just kind of reached in and pulled me out
Hmm.
because I was never going to leave the
Hmm.
situation. So he was like, yeah, we're done here. Boop, I have something else for you. Um, but the other half of me, the one that kind of, that you're getting two pieces, right? You see the one that shows up on social media. I kind of wish I was on next to her while she was on the phone, be like, thank you. Let him go. Get off. Let's go. Hang that phone up
It's
now,
time to
bitch.
roll,
Like, put
girl.
it down. Yeah, let's go. Like, so there's two parts of me, right? There's that inner part that wants to touch that inner child, like, you're fine. Because I am a perfectionist. I do care. I've been conditioned that way to care about other people
Yeah.
first. And then the other part of me, like the true authentic part, is like, hang up on him now, throw that shit away. Thank
It's
God,
time to roll. Yeah.
and it's time to go, baby. We got other things to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
I wish I had that bestie that was kind of standing there being like, put his ass on speakerphone right now and tell him, yeah. But that's kind of where I'm at. And I feel like I'm like that all the time, kind of
Yeah.
that duality,
You know what though? It's just
Um,
releasing your old identity. It's just releasing the old identity and bringing on the new one. And when you're in that shift of the release and the acceptance of the new, it's kind of like this unknown. It's like being naked. It's like, oh my gosh, everybody can see me. Like, what am I going to do now? Like, I wanted
yeah,
so bad to be this, and this is what I was, and this is what I built, and these are all the things that I've done, and that's what everybody knows me as. But now I want to do something different, whether it was with that company or if it was with your gym that you needed to let go of. And, I think
yeah,
as women, we can just evolve, right? Like, why
yeah,
can't we? Why
yeah.
can't we just change our mind? Like, why can't we be more? Why can't we do more? Why can't we be the best us? Like, chapters in our life, like, it's not just one chapter. This is all you are, the end. Like, there's growth, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I've already lived like 9 lives.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think back to young me and I'm like, I don't even remember. Sometimes I think back to like certain little parts of my different of each child and I'm like, I don't remember that. They're like, yeah, I remember that. I'm like, I
Well,
don't
you've
remember
grown
that. I was
so
like, just,
far.
yeah, so much. I joke with my oldest child. He's 16 and he was razzing me about something I had did when they were kids. I was like, I wouldn't have done that. And he's like, yes, you did. And I was like, he was like, yeah, but that was our childhood. And he kind of laughed. And I said, bro, your childhood was my childhood. Like I was 20, 22, I think, when I had him. And I was like, I grew up with you.
Yeah.
But, to go back to what you're saying, it's like, it feels like I've already lived multiple lives, just the way after each pregnancy, right? We had a new body. Really, it was like, oh my God, I had a whole new body. Like, that's exactly how I feel spiritually, emotionally. I feel like I've already overcome and lived multiple lives. And I'm like you, I'm ready. I'm constantly looking for evolution in who I am, but like, I guess really to end up as who I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. But I think you got to
Yeah.
be accepting and willing to let go. You know, it's
Yeah.
it,
I think the let go is the hardest
yeah,
part,
the
right?
let go is the hardest part
Yeah.
because it's so
Hardest part.
familiar. To let go of the
Yeah.
familiar and to
Comforting.
try to get a hold of what's unfamiliar is so scary. And is it going to
Right.
work? I don't even
Right.
know. Like, yeah,
Yeah. It's comforting and it feels safe, right?
yeah,
Even if it's not fulfilling
yeah,
anymore. It's still like, well, it's better than this.
yeah,
And I don't know why. I don't know why it's just, I guess, human nature to have that type of fear. But like, honestly, with you and I, just knowing each of us, like, ha- really, have you ever done something and totally failed at it?
not, I mean, I've done it, but not failed in the sense that, like, in what I thought was going to be in my mind failed. Like, I thought I was going to do this. It is going to,
Right.
like, go to the shits. Like, it's not going to work. Then it didn't. Like, maybe, like,
Right.
it goes kind of like this. Like, you're going up, and, like, if this is where you think is your lowest, you go, but you don't go to here. You kind of go here,
Right.
and then you go back up, and then you go here. But when you look at it overall, like, you've grown so much. So, yeah, a lot of it's
Right.
just in your mind. Like, you know,
Exactly. Exactly. Like, and I think about that all the time. I'm just like, we're so scared to let go of it. Like, it's so easy, right, for a dream to put in our mind
yeah,
or our heart. Like I had a new dream. After you and I talked last Monday, I had therapy and I told her, like, I just had this idea that came to me that day. And it has been on my heart and in my mind. Like, I talked to a couple of people, like, I've been lining people
yeah,
up. I'm like, I'm going to make this happen. Right. But it came out of nowhere. And I was just like, wow, it's so easy for us to think of new things that we want to do or participate or gravitate
yeah.
towards things and want to be this other person, like this higher version of ourselves. And then when we're in it, understanding that letting go of the other
Oh,
version
yeah.
so that we can make room for this, that's the part, right? Like, so easy to come up with a new idea. It's that part of like letting go of that other identity. Like, why is that such a
Yeah.
struggle? And I think that's been my work. Like that's been my work.
Yeah. I've been
Is
telling this
that
to
that
people for a
process.
while. And so for me, it's all about like, just get me in the arena. Like, I don't care. And I think I might have told you this. Just get me in the arena.
Mm,
I don't care if I'm bloody. I don't care if I'm ready to tap out. Like, I just need to be in the arena. And I don't care what I'm doing in there. I kind of do care, but like, I just need to be in the arena. Because honestly, girl, it is
right.
the death of me to sit in the stand and just watch my life go by, because time is not waiting for anybody, girl. It is like going by, and it is going. Girl, the older you get,
Yeah.
the faster this shit's going by fast. I'm like, oh, come on. No, it does.
Yeah.
I just need to be in the arena, and that's it. Like, it is the death of me to sit in the stands and to just watch it all go by.
Yeah, I think the biggest part of being in the arena, because I think Brene Brown is the one, right, who kind of
Yeah,
who had that
yeah,
quote in one of her books, right, about don't listen to people who are sitting in the stands. Like the only
yeah.
people who have anything to say are the ones who are down on the floor, like battling it out. And like you said, even if you're just sweeping up or blotting blood off of people or fighting people, like it's getting in the arena, and it's the walk in the space, it's the bravery and the courage to show, it's being with other fighters. And I think that was the biggest wake up call for me, was to take a look around at who I was losing in my life, right? Because that's how I was, the perception was I was losing friends, I was losing people. No, God was removing people that were not for me at the end of the day. Like, we have so many people who pretend
Hmm.
to be for you, but they're not for you. They are not cheering you on in any capacity. They're watching everything you do.
Hmm.
They're not saying anything, they're not supporting, they're not talking good about you when you're not around. Like, God was removing people like that, and I went through this purge. And it was a purge of all kinds of things. And I think that was the biggest, like, as hard as it was, like, I would never change getting into the arena, doing what I needed to do, starting this process, as freaking hard as it was, losing people left and right, getting fired from a job, right? All of that. I would never change any of that, because it has made me who I am today.
100%, girl.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. So I know recently you just moved to the mainland. How was that for you making that
Mhm.
decision? Because I know a lot of people in Hawaii, they're like, don't leave, don't leave. But honestly, for me, I
Yeah.
think to myself, sometimes like we're just surviving here, but I want to thrive.
Yeah.
Like, do we stay and just survive, or do we move and thrive? And I don't feel like there's any right or any wrong. I think the decision has to be on the
Yeah.
person, you know? So, like for you, how was that? Was that a hard decision, or were you, because you guys have your house in Seattle, right?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we still have our home on Oahu. Like, we didn't sell that or anything.
Yeah.
For me, like, so I'm not. I did podcast before I left, with Rocky Boy, and I was telling him about the process. But you're the first person I get to actually that's going to interview me, like, about now, like, having come through this process. So I'm so glad. I am so beyond glad that we made it here. I knew probably earlier in the year, like, I already had felt an impression that we were going to make this move. And I was waiting for my husband to kind of come around to the idea of it, because he was like, no, 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 we're not going to go. Um, from the outside, it looks like we came up here just for my son to play basketball. So my husband's family, they kind of are from this area, and all of them are just 6'10", 6'9", like, all of them. And my niece and nephew both played at this high school. They're both D1 college athletes currently. Um, one at San Diego State, Aztec, and then my niece, who just finished at Berkeley, is now signed with Oregon State. So I have two D1 niece and nephew. And so, in a weird roundabout way, we brought my son here to play basketball at the same team. And they just won the state championship. But we did not know we were going to move until like 2 weeks before school started. So, like, mid-August, we were like, oh my gosh, we get a call from the head coach, and he's like, we're expecting Marcus to be here. And I'm like, I knew that we should have been here. Like, I already knew. And I was just kind of waiting for my husband to come around. And so we're like, all right, we prayed about it, and we're like, let's go. It has been the most amazing experience. Not easy, but rewarding experience. Like, you know, Washington, because that's where my husband's family's from. So there was multiple reasons for us to be here with the family and be a part of this. Um, it rains a lot. It's ugly. Like, it's the most
Opposite of
gorgeous state
Hawaii.
when the sun is out. Yes, it's like every time anybody finds out I moved from Hawaii, they're like, "Why?" Like, that's their first. Why would you come here? But I gotta tell you, like, we prayed, we asked for growth, and growth is what we got. We asked to expand. We asked for opportunities. We asked for scouting opportunities. We wanted, this was what it came down to. Our son had a dream, and we were not going to sit by and just be like, but our dream was to raise you in Hawaii and give you culture. Like, we packed up and we said we're going to do it, and do I miss home? Yes. Every day, every other day, I miss my friends. I miss the community. I miss my family. I miss my mom's house down the street. I miss, tutu, whatever, like just being able to be at a arm's distance. I miss the food. Like, I miss certain things, but I would never trade this experience. I would never trade this experience. It has been the most rewarding thing watching my children rely upon each other as a family. We started new. We didn't know anybody. I had, my sister-in-law that lives down the street, their family, but we had been living away from them for 15 years. So it's not like I was expecting the kids to get along right away. And yet they did, they did. The community embraced us. The church embraced us. Like, I found little pockets here and there, found a gym. I know that was a big thing on my list, was making sure I could find a gym that I jived with. But like, the opportunity for personal development and growth for my family has been insane. And so I'm super blessed that we took this opportunity.
Yeah.
I know I do want to talk about, like, I love your sister, and I know she did your podcast already, but like, keeping Hawaiian land in Hawaiian hands, right? Like, that's her thing. That's our thing at our soul, our core, right? Is how can we better serve our community? And how am I serving my community? By being here. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I do have this kind of conversation about, did I make the right move? Am I giving my children, the full immersion into the culture from living up here? Like, how are they going to experience all of those things? How are they going to understand? And I have this one friend, a Hawaiian friend of mine. He always brings it back around, and he's always telling me, he's like, you living your most authentic life and doing the best that you can for your business, for your family as a Hawaiian, is what our community needs. Yeah. Whether or not it's here or there, what it is, I want to be on Oahu. I plan to be back home. I plan to have my family there in a few years. But for now, this is such a small little piece on the grand scheme of things that I think we get so afraid to leave the island for. Yeah. And we can come back, I mean, yes, I set things up a little bit differently. I have a home there that I'm not selling, so I have a home to come back to, but we can always come back. And I think that's the biggest thing, is like, I think it was 808 Viral. Mm-hmm. Maybe it had posted something this past week, and it was like, do we have a crabs in a bucket situation in Hawaii? And as an entrepreneur, as an entrepreneur or business owner in Hawaii, it's already small group. Yeah. And then to be a wahine is even smaller group, right? So you and I kind of know the ins and outs of some of these small subcultures, right? These little subgroups in Hawaii. And so I know that that's a big question for people. Do we leave? And we want so badly for everybody to stay, as a group, right? We don't want anybody to leave. But the fact of the matter is,
but sometimes we need to expand.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need to expand. Like, and expansion sometimes means leaving. Yeah. Leaving and then coming back if you can, or if you don't want, or letting it be your choice if you want to come back. And for you set that up so beautifully, because you have your home that you have the choice in 5, 10, whatever, however many years you want for you to come home,
Yeah. Yeah. I want to come home. It never was a, I want to get out of here kind of a deal. It was, I want to taste. Yeah. I want to sample. I want to sample other things. I want to understand other things. And as I explore, and as my children explore, as we explore, like, we develop, I think, as humans, right? We develop empathy, we understand other cultures, we understand what other people are
Yeah.
going through, and we develop these other sides that are so necessary for human development. As soon as I
Mhm.
moved into this community, I live in Snoqualmie, and most of Washington has Native American names. And so everybody's like, what? Snoqualmie? It's kind of a funny word. But it means, literal translation is people of the moon.
Oh,
And
I
so the
love
people here, the
that.
Snoqualmie, right? Right. And on a whim, I chose this place. Like, I found a house online. Everything was all done. And I was just like, oh, I knew immediately I was supposed to be in this town. My development here was meant to be in this town with the people of the moon. Granted, they have a reservation that's not too far from my house. I went straight down and I learned everything I could learn about the people of the moon and this land and what this land was about, who it belonged to, the origin story, the Snoqualmie River, like the waterfall, there's Mount Si, and like what it meant to the people. And I immediately immersed myself in kind of that culture. I'm so thankful, right? I'm so thankful that's like that I can be on this land in this particular place having my experience of healing and growth. Like there's so much trauma too, right, to Hawaiian Islands and our
Mhm.
story and all the things that are happening there in the land. But like, so do they, so it's an interesting dynamic for me to be here, moved into this area and have my healing here.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like, because I lived here 15, 16 years ago. My two oldest sons were born here. We were so dirt poor, we couldn't do anything. I did not experience this place. And so it was almost like having a second chance to come back and really like experience Snoqualmie, well, not Snoqualmie, but at the time I was in Issaquah, but just experience Washington with my family by myself.
Mhm.
I've always had family around, my family. So it's
Yeah.
been this interesting, of like being me and having a second mom era, like raising older children in a new place and having to cook for them every night. I wasn't always the main chef in the house. So like this experience has just been thriving would be the word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to leave
Mhm.
home to thrive, to expand,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's okay. And I think that's the message
Yeah.
that we need to tell people.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay. Like, at the end of the day, yes, I'm Hawaiian and other things, but my soul also wants to experience things. My spirit, my soul,
Yeah.
she wants to experience more. And I'm not saying that Hawaii is not enough, because it absolutely is. But my spirit wants to experience few things with my children and my husband in a different setting for me to have the optimal growth for whatever it is that God has planned, so that I can come back and serve our people the way I'm supposed to.
Yes. Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're not good to
And that's the way we
anybody
got to look
if
at
you're
it.
not living your best life. And even for your daughter, for you to expand yourself and to show your daughter that you're going to be okay, no matter what you went through,
Mhm.
it's going to be okay. You can leave
Yeah.
Hawaii, you can come back. You will always have a home base.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And we just like home, we look so much, I think, as we're discovering who we are, for outward validation, right?
Yeah.
And outward identity and validation
It
in
comes
my
back all
community
to
or whatever it
identity,
is.
right? Like from right when we
Right.
started this podcast, like who are you, Kamaile? But then now it comes down to your identity as a Hawaiian. As a Hawaiian, do you stay? Do you stay in
Yeah.
Hawaii? Do you leave? Or are you like selling out if you leave? Or if you want more than outside of
Right.
what this island has to offer, you know? But it's that identity sometimes too, is like who do you think you are, like wanting more? So I feel
Right.
like as a
Right.
Hawaiian woman, like, or Polynesian woman, or just a woman in
Right.
general, like when you want more, sometimes that guilt a little bit of feeling like, oh, like who am I to want more, or who am I to step outside of my tribe of women
Yeah.
and want more than that,
Yeah. I gave that up a long time ago.
Yeah,
That doesn't serve me anymore.
yeah,
It doesn't serve my genealogy, and it's not going to serve my posterity. And so I gave up that a long time ago. And that was hard, because you look around and you're taught, Ohana means no one gets left behind.
yeah,
100%. And there's this responsibility. almost, right? You're kuleana to every member and making sure that we all succeed as a community. And that's what makes um, cultures so rich, right? Because we work together. Um, and I wish it were that easy. I wish it were that easy all the time, and it's not. And there's no good, right, wrong, bad
Yeah.
answer, right? Like on whether you decide to stay or leave. That's going to really come down to what is it that you're looking for? What is it that you want?
Yeah.
Is your goal to serve? Is your goal to serve your community? Is your goal to just make it?
And that's the deepest
I'm
question
I'm I'm
is what do
here.
you want? Like finding the deep
What do you
truth
want?
of what do you truly want? Like what does your soul
And
want?
being honest. Yeah, no judgment about
Yeah.
it either, and like
Yeah.
you are going to be
Yeah.
judged no matter what you decide. Leave, go, stay, come, whatever, like
Yeah.
no matter what.
Yeah.
Someone is not going to like what you decided to do. I This is actually kind of funny. So also last week in therapy, we talked about surrendering. And she brought up the word surrender and I immediately just kind of started to tear up and she said, "What? Like what is it about the word surrender?" And I said, "It always feels like giving up. Surrendering is waving the flag, right? Surrender is what I was conditioned as a child as peacemaker. Just, let it go." And I didn't learn the difference. So what we were talking about was the difference between surrendering and choosing, choosing to let something go. And you and I already talked on this, like letting go of things is the hardest part. Partially because it's part of who you are, right? So like it's scary to be like, I can release this thing, even though we want to so badly. And so we talked about surrendering and how sometimes with surrender, you feel like you don't really have a choice, but actively choosing. And I think that's where we're at, right? Is it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm a mom. My husband doesn't support me in this. Like, I just, it's not for me. And it's just not going to happen. Versus, I'm going to let go of that. I'm going to let go of this. I'm going to let go of this cultural norm, or I'm going to let go of society's norm on what a mother and a woman should look
I'm
like,
gonna let go of my old
right? Or
identity.
how, yeah, I'm going to let go of I'm going to reteach and unlearn all of these things I was told. Like, as a young LDS girl, and I still practice, but like the main goal is to just get married and have babies, which sounded great. And I'm grateful for, but my soul, my spirit, she wanted to create. She always wanted to create. And not just, I'm grateful I created life, but she wanted to create in other ways. And that was okay if it felt, if it fit into the box of, but you did your motherly duties first, right?
Mhm.
So it was unlearning just these little things about like, I'm more than. I'm more than a wife. I'm more than a mother. I'm more than, right? The cook in the house or the cleaner. Like it was
Mhm.
all these little things that kind of added up until one day I was like, this is who I am. And the cool part about showing up, and what I mean showing up is like every day, but also for most people when they see me, it's through social media, right? The best part about showing up is that I get to change at any time I want to,
That's right, girl. New
right?
chapter. Come on.
Right. New chapter. Anytime I want to, I'm going to change it up. And if you don't like it, then you see yourself out of this chapter.
Yes.
Yeah. No issues. Just, it's
Yeah.
not for you. I get it,
Yeah.
But like respecting and having gratitude for the journey
Yeah.
it's been wild. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
roller coaster ride, girl. It's all about it.
Hmm.
One last thing before we go. What advice would you give your daughter?
Yeah.
Like if you could go back to some of the most hardest moments in your life, pick pick one, whatever it is, and what advice would you give
Mhm.
your daughter if your daughter is going through that?
Let me pick
I mean,
one.
it could be childhood, it could be teenage, it could be adult, 20s, 30s, whatever it is.
The biggest thing that I've been working through at this time, like at this stage, in loving myself is advocating for myself. And if there's one thing I would push for her, advice wise or encourage, would be to advocate for herself, speak up for herself, and don't let anybody, any outside person, waver who you think you are or want to be. Period. Because everybody's going to have an opinion. Everybody is going to have some judgment. People are not going to agree with you. And at the end of the day, the only person that can bring you true joy or fulfillment is you. Is you. That's it. And so when we got to take care of anybody, it just needs to be you. And I feel like I learned that a little later in life than I would have liked to. But now that I know it, we driving that home. We are pushing that forward.
We're pressing
My
the gas,
prosperity
girl.
from here. Yeah.
We're
Every
going full
woman and
speed.
man, whatever, in my line from this point forward will understand this concept of love themselves fully. Yeah.
Yeah. I love all of it. I love this whole hour that we spent together. It was so wonderful. Thank you so much, girl. Okay, if people want to find you, if they want to get things from Okole by Kamaile, what's the website? How do people get in touch with you, find you, or follow you, whatever?
Yeah, come to Instagram, Okole by Kamaile. I got some other things coming up soon. And then the website is okolebyKamaile.com or by Kamaile, either one. And it will take you there. Yeah. Just really excited to be here. I'm really excited because I feel like I'm in just a new uncharted territory, which is, like you said, scary, but so fun, because there's so many possibilities to what we're going to do next. So I'm excited for you and what you got coming up. And I'm excited to just be a part of that. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, girl. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed our time together, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and share this podcast with your friends and family. It helps more than you know, and it allows me to bring even more amazing stories to your ears. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, every share inspires another woman on her path to becoming her best self. I'll see you in the next episode.